Hey, Michael, welcome on the Jim Groots podcast for stories that we want to tell, for stories behind the lens, and on how to grow your brand and how to monetize content creation with useful marketing strategies.
Thank you for
Well,
having me.
thank you for being on the show, on the podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you. I want to do a proper introduction before we start. So, for the listeners that are listening back the full podcast right now, that's super cool. Michael, you're one of the first guests. Um, you are an international portrait photographer. You worked in also work in hospitality. You specialize in portraits and high-end interior hospitality photos and 360 degrees Google Street View photography and digital tours, custom tours. You build them yourself. You take the photos, you put them in like a digital software that you can have a digital tour. You used to hold an international press ID, and you have covered large scale events such as the Rio de Janeiro Carnival and massive festivals. You created individual 360 tours for one of the biggest pharma companies in the world. And you, at the moment, you see huge potential in 360 degrees tours. And do I say that properly? Like 360-degree panorama scenes,
Yeah,
tours.
photos, 360 photos, 360 panoramas. Like depends. Some people call like this, but like I just usually say 360 images. That's fine.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. So to start with, like, for how long have you done photography?
Um, God, 20 years now. Like more or less. Like I started with like analog camera. And then just ventured out and like for my 18th birthday got a small digital camera and then was just always taking photos and had it as a hobby, and then slowly but surely ventured out that people actually asked, hey, can you take photos of me, I pay you. And then got my first digital like proper Canon DSLR, even though it was a budget one, and then splashed more money into getting proper lenses,
Okay.
and then
So,
it
so
just
if
grew.
I understand, you really started photography in the analog time era, right? You started with an
Yeah,
analog camera, like, and that's many photographers nowadays don't get to experience that anymore. What camera did you start with?
it was just like old. I think Canon or Pentax cameras. I actually like it's so long
Yeah,
ago. I didn't do it much, to be honest, and I sadly never developed my own film. That is actually still
yeah,
something I that is on my bucket list to do, to
yeah,
have like access to a dark room and just like develop the film with my own hands. And I actually collect old cameras as well, and then if they
yeah,
still work, I then just buy a film and go out and shoot, because it's a sobering experience in a way in our digital age that you only have, some of my cameras actually only have 10 images in a roll, so
yeah,
that you really need to say, okay, is this shot worth one of my 10 images? And like it costs like $2 or something to buy and develop the film, like per image.
yeah.
So it's like, is this worth it? Because in our digital age, we just shoot, and we have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of photos, and like we
Yeah,
lose the overview quickly.
it's a whole other approach when you have to like when you have to develop your films afterwards, and you're like the whole experience gets different, and like it's a whole other approach. I've seen videos of Peter McKinnon doing that recently, switching fully to analog, and like there's a big experience built around that on how your photography approach is changed after that. Yeah, it's a
Absolutely.
super interesting. Would you ever go back to analog later?
Um,
That seems
maybe. I
hard,
mean, that,
right?
that is maybe only for some special projects. I mean, I
Yeah,
did some images, like some portrait images, where I used a medium format camera. Um,
yeah, yeah.
and
That's interesting.
that has its complete own charm and style, and that's like you can
Yeah.
specialize only in that, and I know people who have done only focusing on that, or then spend several $1,000s for a digital back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's right now only like for special occasions or for some personal hobby projects or something. So because
Yeah.
for that you need time, you need proper lights and a setup and so on. So
Yeah.
it's a bit more problematic.
Yeah, like the whole workflow is changed. You have to personally develop your films or send it somewhere. Like you have different lenses, of course. Like they're all older, vintage. My
It's
mom
not
has
just
got
that.
a.
It's
My
just
mom
like you
has.
need a light meter and to
Oh
have the,
yeah,
because you can't just check like with a phone or anything like is it too dark
no,
or too bright. You actually you need to have a light meter for, like have the light proper setup, and so it's a completely different ball game in that regards.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
developing then you can just send off, but it's just the entire setup, and you don't know if your shot worked out or not only when you
yeah,
develop it. And
yeah.
worst case scenario, you shoot and then like all the images are gone and you need to like wait a week and then reshoot it again. So
Yeah, yeah, it's a big risk factor involved as well.
yeah,
All right. So like after the analog, you moved to Canon immediately,
yeah.
or you
I
and
moved to well, I first had a small like back in the days digital camera, just like some random brand with a screen at the back. So
yeah,
basically nowadays like a phone camera. And then yeah, switched to Canon, like a like basic entry model camera with like a crop factor. And I still remember that some professional photographers looked at me in disbelief when I went to my first concerts, because I think I only paid like $300 or $400 for the camera, but then spent like $1,000 on a good lens.
yeah,
They were like, "You have this lens. Why do you have this cheap camera there? Like, what the heck?" And I was like, "Well, the lens is what makes all the difference."
yeah,
Then because even if I would have spent the opposite around like $1,000 for camera, but then only 400 on a lens, the photos would not have been as great.
yeah,
So
yeah,
and then I just waited for until I got more jobs and like more money coming in to then upgrade to a full frame Canon camera. And yeah, the difference was mind blowing, of course.
yeah.
But still,
I
it got me to the point. It's just like where you as well need to see what do you want to shoot, and then basically make the strategic investments into that. I used to always do concert and events, so there you're usually
yeah,
not allowed to use a flash, and you need to have
yeah,
very light sensitive lenses in order to work in a dark environment. So
yeah,
that's what I focused on, to have a mobile setup, basically no flash, and just really light sensitive lenses, which cost a lot,
yeah.
but it was
Like
worth it.
what lens did you go with in the beginning?
In the beginning, in which I would like tell everybody, and I have as well told other people, just the nifty 50, like the 50 millimeter 1.8 from Canon. It's like $100 or used for like $80. It's really cheap.
Yeah,
It has a wide aperture of 1.8, and that's how I started. You get a lovely blurry background. Yeah, it works on any camera, any Canon camera, and that's how I started. And that's where people see as well the difference from like a phone. That the background is lovely blurry, and the subject pops out.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
That's super important.
yeah, and
That
then
that's what.
gradually I upgraded to like better lenses.
Mm. You just said like not to corner you or anything, but you said you spent like a lot of money on a wide aperture lens. What lens can you recommend people starting with? Because I think most of the photographers or people that are getting into photography, they don't start with a full frame camera. They start with a crop camera to learn the trade, to learn how a camera works and how you shoot manual. What kind of lens would you recommend starting with?
Well, as I said, the 50 millimeter 1.8 is like really cheap, and but still very good for what you pay for. Actually, really good.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
on a crop factor camera, it's basically an 85 millimeter, and that is actually really, really good to make portraits. So, and of course it depends what you want to do. If you want to do bird photography, like get some cheap, really like 400 millimeter lens and
Yeah.
just do that. But if you're usually like portraits and so on, the 50 is so versatile. And otherwise, the 35 is as well. Like I'm big on prime lenses. So I think the next one was 35-1.4, and
Yeah.
then the 70-200. However, if you're not shooting events or like weddings and so on, don't buy it because it's specialized for that. Or like, and I have like a 16-35 for as well events if I want to have like a large crowd shot or a wedding with a lot of people, or sometimes when I do some nature shots and so on, that I can really zoom out widely and still have like a low aperture or wide aperture of like 2.8 if I want to.
Yeah.
So, and now my main workhorse is the 85-1.4. I
Yeah.
actually used to have the 85-1.2, but when I was when we had COVID here in Vietnam, I couldn't send it over from Germany to Vietnam, so I actually sold
Yeah.
it in Germany on eBay, and then for the
Oh.
same money bought a new 85-4-1.4 here in Vietnam. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's that works as well. So, and for the virtual tours, jumping ahead a little bit, but with a virtual tour, so
Yeah.
you can
That's
basically
okay.
do the same thing. There's budget solutions, or you can do it with a DSLR. So I actually started with a more expensive budget version of like the
Yeah.
Ricoh Zeta Z1, which sets you back like $1,000. However, it is the best for in that price range, all around 360 camera. And that what I offer now is as you have a budget solution and a high end solution for 360 tours. So with the budget one, I just go out with a camera, put it on a tripod, the Z1, do the photos, stitch them together, and all that stuff. That's pretty much automated. And for the high end, I have a 360 attachment for my full frame Canon with a fisheye to then have individual shots, which I then manually need to stitch together. And it's a lot more work involved in post production.
Yeah.
But of course, the quality is like a lot larger. So, but I'm now give clients the option. And just for like big Google Street View tours. I did one for a massive resort here in Da Nang, where I did 4.5 kilometers of Street View. And
So,
normal people, well, not normal, but like usually people only take like a 360 video while walking and upload that video. But it's a video, it's not really high res.
yeah.
So what I then did was that I took the extra work by literally walking 10 meters, stop, take a photo, actually 5 meters. Every 5 meters, I stopped and took an actual photo and then turned all these photos, like manually added them and turned them into a video. Uh,
Mm.
and the quality was a lot better.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, that camera has already paid for itself multiple times. And
Can I take a few steps back?
yeah,
You
sorry, it's
were
like getting ahead there.
you were making like 360 panoramic tours for hotels. What is the benefit that hotels have when they have a tour? They can put it on their website or they can put it on Google Street View. What is the noticeable benefits for those enterprises, hotels, or venues?
Well, it is basically that you can fully be integrated into the photo so that you can literally look around, which you
Yeah,
of course normally wouldn't be able to do because normally you'd only have like one shot and you don't know what's behind it.
yeah,
So the obvious benefit is for Google Street View is that it's free, it's basically a free extra marketing tool because anybody opening Google Maps and searching a business, if Google Street View is enabled, sees a small square at the bottom left of the screen, can click on it and
yeah.
walk around the premises, and that gives you a much better idea of how it actually looks like.
Yeah,
Um,
bec-
and
bec- because with normally you have got photos you've got a venue, there's a photographer coming, they take like the most optimized photos, they photoshop some elements so that it looks their best. But with this you can photoshop a little bit, but it's like the full tour, the full experience, so it's impossible for customers to just have the experience that everything is photoshopped. Like you get the raw real venue that way,
Yeah, not just that, but
right?
it's rather like you might see like an image of like a beautiful setup table with a nice view, but in reality it might be that literally a meter behind that is like an
Yeah,
open wall and just looks ugly, or there is like fans around standing whatever. And
yeah,
with 360 you can fully look around and you can see actually, or you can even call the venue and say, hey, I looked on Google Maps, can I please have the second table to the left in the corner or something. Like you can specifically say, hey, can I reserve this and this table? Or the venues can actually tell their customers, here is Google Maps or our specific link. Please have a look where you want to reserve. Or
yeah,
like as well with real estate or other thing that you can say, hey, these are our premises, these are the outdoor areas. Where do you want to go? What do you want to see? The same with hotels where you say, oh, we have this and this room type. Have a look.
yeah.
And because especially with hotels, quite often they might cheat a bit, or not cheat a bit, but like they have the photographer uses creative ways of making it bigger as it is, or
Yeah,
only focusing on weird angles. And with 360, you can actually, as a customer, really look around and say, hey, is this something where I want to be or not?
yeah,
So yeah, there I see the benefits. Plus, so that is just Google Street View with a
you-
custom tour.
yeah.
So Google Street View obviously is only like hosted by Google. So Google itself does only the streets itself where they drive around
Yes,
with their cars.
but you're telling me your photos, your 360 tours get integrated into Google. So is
Exactly.
that then only the outside, or are you able to call on like the business profile and go through the tour?
That's what I mean. Like, so
Because
Google itself.
because if that's the case, I hear from a lot of restaurants and business owners that the Google business profile is like the first point of contact for a lot of customers. That
Exactly.
and the reviews. So that seems like an important aspect, an important element.
Exactly, because Google only does a street. So even
Yeah,
if the business, so to speak, is linked or visible on Google Maps, it might only be that it's from outside the street looking at the front window, and that's it. However, when I come in, I have special like software access to Google Street View, which normal people don't have, and then I can literally link the inside of the business to Google Street View. So that's what I mean. If you
okay,
then are on Google Maps on your phone, you then instantly see the small square at the bottom left. You click on it, and you are
yeah,
inside the business.
okay,
Then
and
so that is the one thing that they can then integrate everything in Google, and that's for free, obviously. And another aspect is a customized virtual tour, which I
yeah,
would host on my server, or which I can bring to the client to have hosted on their server.
yeah,
And there you have a lot more customized options, because Google, of course, doesn't allow things like background music, pop ups, PDFs, information things. So I can literally customize it as much as I want. I can
can you
have,
give some examples of that? Like
yeah,
for
that's what I
the
mean. For example, in a hotel room, I can have that the TV, there's actually like the promotion clip of the hotel playing on the TV. So I can literally integrate that video inside the video, inside the photo, and that you can have pop-up buttons where you inside the 360 you click on, and then like a pop-up appears with the booking option, or you have a PDF. You can have background music, you can have image gallery. So those are all what's called a hotspot, like a button inside the photo. You click on it, and then whatever you want pops up or happens. And
what
those
is?
And
Yeah.
sorry, and those links you can then embed into your homepage. So that is especially, for example, for large scale resorts or entertainment venues. When they have different setups, you can have the camera standing in the middle of the room, and you change the setup, and then you can literally just click setup one, like ballroom setup, wedding
Yeah.
setup, concert setup. So, and
Okay.
then
So
you
then you can market it on different landing pages and make
exactly,
sure that customers that are looking for that have like a 360 experience. Click on the
exactly,
button and they get like in a unique wedding setup or
exactly, yeah. And you can then
awesome.
integrate videos, photos, background music, like whatever you want to have. Plus, you can have Google Analytics into it, so you can then see how many people looked at it, where did they look, what did they interact with, and so on. So there's a whole host of options otherwise, like in the backend.
Or what kind of what kind of use cases did you like? How has this been put into use for the past time that you've been doing this? And like what is the main feedback you get from your customers?
So one thing was, for example, this one of these biggest pharmaceutical companies. So they had a huge medical congress where they had, I think it was a 900 square meter exhibition booth.
Yeah,
And the company which created and built that exhibition booth actually hired me to make a fully interactive tour of that. So in the morning, they flew me into, I think it was Amsterdam. They flew me into Amsterdam back then. And I, before it opened, went around and took the images. And then they
yeah,
provided me with all, because I had a lot of touch screens and interactive things, they provided me with all the virtual assets. So like the video, the graphics, the PDFs, the um, like some interactive other things, and then I basically built it
yeah,
all in there. So you would start the tour, you had a button for image galleries popping up of the event because I then afterwards took normal event photos. So you then could walk around to all the different interactive screens and click on the screen. A video would pop up and you could watch the video. You now even have e-learning aspects that you can make it that a customer first needs to click on certain things because they before they can come to the next panorama. So
yeah,
those are some of the things you can do. And obviously for hotels that you, as I said, you can have on the TV their promotion video running. You can have some background music in. You can have like on the phone, I made like a small information icon. You can click on it and you see some information about the room,
yeah.
um, booking options, all that stuff.
I can imagine like that's highly converting because everything nowadays is like a customer goes through Google, then they look at the business profile. That's especially so with booking a hotel or booking a restaurant. First, you go through the photos. No, I actually think first you go through the reviews. Is this like a good restaurant? And if the reviews are good, then you go through the photos and you're going to look around. Like, is this place worthwhile? Like, is this some place I want to stay at?
Yeah,
And then is it possible to go from then from Google you go to a digital tour and that digital tour has got like some call outs that you can easily contact the venue and like make a proper reservation. Could it
you
that
can.
it
Like,
makes it so easy for people to just be engaged because before they're even visiting the venue they are familiar with it, right?
yeah,
So it's way more harder than to go to a different place because you hear it so many times. People are going to a coffee shop and then you got to go to a new coffee shop, but you rather go to a place that you're familiar with already than that you go to discover something that you don't know yet.
exactly. And there are studies actually showing a much higher conversion rate from a visitor
Yeah,
to a booking customer if you have a virtual tour on your homepage.
yeah,
Because they are, as I said, like as I said to as well, like you click around, you look around, you go to the next
yeah,
room, And all of a sudden, you already have made some connection to the place just because you have been inside.
Yeah.
And then, like, the more time you spend because there are different panoramas to look, or oh, here's the image gallery, let's check out that video there, or we can go down to the restaurant to see how the atmosphere is there or how the pool looks like. And
Yeah.
then, oh yeah, now we spent so much time already. Oh yeah, let's book. And the custom tours on a homepage actually has a lot of conversion rate. So
Great. How does your onboarding process look like? I want to ask this to all future podcast show visitors and guests. And I'm really interested as well in your case because you're talking to big venues. How do you approach them, and what does your onboarding process look like when you first talk to a client?
well, it's here in Vietnam, it's fairly
Uh-huh.
easy because, especially with Google
Yeah,
Street View, because Google is not allowed to do it officially. So you just have
yeah,
some random people on a motorbike with a camera did something, or like you had. I'm actually next week gonna shoot restaurants because their Google Street View, like the premises before, was a massage place.
uh,
So you have some apparently really like overexposed, really bad 360 photos of a massage place, and that is when you open like on Google Maps, like the restaurant page, and that's obviously not what they want. So for me, that
yeah,
is actually my first sales pitch, where whenever I am at a place, I just instantly check, do they have Google Street View and what's on there?
yeah,
And then usually, if you then go to the ask, hey, can I ask, is the marketing person here, or head of marketing, head of sales? And then you just say, hey, I just noticed, I was just passing by, like, this is how it looks like. Do you maybe want to have an upgrade? And that is usually an instant door opener in that regards.
yeah. I can imagine also every restaurant or business owner wants to have an updated Google Business Review or a Google Business page
Yeah,
because it's the first point that people look at and
yeah.
find you on. Yeah. So,
So
so you are actively going out there talking to business owners about the missed opportunity.
yeah, and as well, I've started. So basically, my one of my researches is that I check online, is there any Google Street View? If not, or if I see that can be improved, then either I go by there or I try to find the responsible people on LinkedIn, like the
Yeah.
project manager, head of marketing, GM, whatever I can find there. And usually as well, just contact them directly, because what I found, what can be a challenge is the front desk manager, because
Yeah.
of the receptionist, because you need to get past them in order to get to the people who you actually want to talk to. And if they block you or are not participating or don't speak the language well and so on, then you have an instant roadblock. So I
How do
found,
you do that? How do you get to the decision makers?
well, that's what I mean. Like, usually, especially here in Vietnam, where you have like the language barrier as well, I take out my phone and show them like
Yeah.
what I do. And
Yeah.
then, because like a lot of people, or just in general, don't really know what Google Street View is when you mention the names, then I just open my phone and say, here, I take these photos. Can I talk to the marketing manager? That usually helps.
Yeah.
Um, or that I try to get their contact email at least and then write to them. And with smaller venues like restaurants and so on, yeah, usually when I'm just there as a customer, I just see quickly on my phone while I wait for the food, like, do they have photos or not? If they don't, I ask, hey, is the owner around? Usually they are. I actually had that on Saturday. I was at
Yeah.
a restaurant. We were waiting for our food, and my friend recognized the owner. I said, hi, that's the owner. I said, like, wait a second. Quickly checked, and it's like, hey, sorry, sir, you're the owner? May I ask you, like, you have these images here. They look really, really, really old. It's like, oh, yeah, they must be around 9 years old. It's like,
Oh, ho, ho, ho.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they looked like that as well. And I was like, do you want to have an upgrade? I can do
Yeah.
that for you. So, oh, yeah, sure. Actually, here's my card. Contact me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
So
is as
you check,
simple as that.
you diagnose the problem. You like you have a way of checking immediately. Like, does this person, does this business have like what they need or what they would benefit from, and then you just reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find like especially the way that you just show your phone and you demonstrate the value of actually having like a proper digital tour. Like that's impressive, right? That's strong.
Yeah.
Shows value.
Yeah, it instantly shows what you can do, and they usually say, "Oh yeah, that looks nice." Of course, we need to as well take into account that right now some areas in the world have like a little bit tighter economic situation, so there it's not necessarily on their first priority. And I
Yeah.
noticed then as well when they said, what do we get in return? Because when we like have a hire a TikToker or something or an influencer, and they highlight our margarita or whatever, we know for the next week or two we're gonna sell a lot more of these.
Yeah.
That is one thing which I have overcome by that the software which I'm using, which requires a subscription as well, a monthly like payment for that, then offers you analytics. So you can then act from Google.
Ah,
Because normally you can only see the overall number for the individual panoramas, but not like for the entire tour, how many they got and so on. And now that I have this, I can literally say, hey, this business, which I have shot 6 months ago, they now have like 60, 50, 40,000 views. And
yeah.
that's usually where then people say, okay, so if I pay this amount, I should probably get X amount of views, and it's like accumulating even further. So that is as well like a sales pitch tool which I got now, which overcomes some other hurdles.
Okay. Yeah, we had this conversation with restaurants before, and they all had the feedback like social media is big, like Facebook and Instagram. That's big. Google is the biggest because that's how the way people find us. And if we do something on a website, make sure that it doesn't open up an extra channel on this. We also get overwhelmed with communication.
Yeah.
So it seemed that like your digital tour is perfectly in line with redirecting your customers from a website or even from Google back to Google and making sure you have a return on that.
Yep. I
Uh,
mean, for example, those custom tours are only necessary for big resorts, for example, or like custom made events, or to like save the images or the tour of a one-time event. Like a small restaurant wouldn't need a custom built tour. That Google Street View is enough.
yeah,
Because they usually don't have their own website and so on. So their Google Street View is absolutely fine. You don't need it fully personalized. As I said, it's only 5-star hotels, big resorts, yeah, stuff like that.
with a bigger venue.
Yeah, with a bigger venue and the budget as well, because it's obviously more expensive if I need to build a fully interactive, customized tour as well.
Yeah, but there's a certainty of a return on investment. Well,
Absolutely, especially for the big ones, because there you
how much are
can.
you talking about then? Like, what do the metrics say? Like a doubling the amount of visitors, or
It depends what they had before. That's the
yeah,
thing, because obviously if you had no, like, even for a restaurant, if they had zero stuff before, it's hard to compare of like from zero to, of course you get stuff.
yeah.
Um
But
so
can you share a success story or a case study?
well, as I said, like I have for one cafe here, quite famous cafe and co-working space. With them now on average, I think it's 1,900 views per week.
Okay,
So that is actually, and that is continuously. Basically, every week is between 1,700 to 1,900. So on average, yeah, 1,800 maybe. views
Okay.
every single week. And those are like new people, because if you have been there once with 360, you don't usually go in there again, so to speak.
Ah, yeah.
So that is really nice to see. And yeah, with custom tours, there it's a bit more tricky because you don't really like, you didn't have anything to compare before. And usually there it's just that the for big resorts it's more important to see, to have the information out there that you can really switch from individual villas to like a presidential suite, to the pool, to the restaurant, the sky deck, and so on. And that
Yeah.
to make it, especially if they're further away, then that is hard to have that on Google, because you basically need to have a continuous link in a way.
Yeah.
So there, of course, a custom tour helps a lot better.
Okay. Clear. Yeah. If there's a beginner photographer or content creator, like what would you give as a biggest tip that that they can learn in the fastest way? What is like a golden tip you would be able to give them
For portrait or 360?
for 360? Is it like it's such an
I
interesting
like
you
360 requires, if you want to do it high end, more of a learning curve. Then, so
yeah
that is, I think, there you should be able to a take photos beforehand and know how to edit and all that stuff. You can, of course, what I did in the start on a more budget market or with like small customers, um, buy like full 360 camera which captures everything at the start. Of
yeah
course, you have trade-offs with the resolution, the sharpness, the dynamic range, and so on. But you can start with that. Of course, you can't then charge a premium price because it's not like a premium product.
yeah
And obviously, that wouldn't work as much in, for example, in Europe, because there the market's very much saturated. Here in Asia,
aren't they in Europe also not partnering up with Google so that whenever you want to have like a Google 360 in your venue, then you can call like a Google certified photographer?
no, Google
I'm
stopped
like,
that program. They actually used to
oh,
have badges for it that you could like have like a Google certified badge on it, but that I think they stopped 2 or 3 years ago. The
okay, so
program,
that's
which is
they
quite
returned
sad.
that all to the freelancers.
Yeah. So like now it is that you need to, and most people don't even know that you need to hire a person like me to take
Uh,
the photos inside. They think like, oh, it's Google. Actually, in some big European cities where Google is really active, they might do that, or they partner with marketing agencies or something to do that, and it's like a general subscription price, I think.
yeah.
But here in Asia, nothing, nada. So it's a lot of educating your clients as well of what's actually possible or not, or that
Okay.
it's even doable.
Hmm. Yeah, returning to the onboarding process then like what are some things you discuss with your clients?
Well, it
How
depends. If it's
how does it go?
Western clients, they obviously know what Google Street View is, and like
Yeah.
they are usually more aware of the capabilities. Versus when you have Vietnamese local business owners, they might sometimes not see the need of it, or like, yeah, don't want to spend the money on it. So for them, it's, oh yeah, we have a Google address and that's it, or a Google profile. So there you need to usually spend more time to like convince them, or to like tell them what the benefits are and so on. And
But if you are a small business and you've got Google Street View and the first point is Google, then like small businesses might not even benefit from that. Uh,
no,
am I
they
wrong?
would, like, as I said, even with
Mm,
small cafes, I got like 1,700, 800, 900 views per week.
yeah.
And
And that is then like one photo you take, like or one or two stances, and
no,
that's
that was
also
actually, that was a full tour of like, I think we had like 30 or 40 images, because it was
okay.
over 2 floors.
Yeah.
Um, So that is a bigger tour. But even if it's like a small cafe, even if it's like 3 4 images, already that would help. Just that you have the small square appearing on
Yeah.
your phone, just that thing in itself is just like wow, you can look inside. And yeah, I
Do
still
you do you offer budget solutions for smaller coffee shops
yeah,
that
of course
would
they are
benefit
they are
like with one
there.
photo already and have that option?
So there I basically offer that I use my full 360 camera instead of my full DSLR, because yeah,
Yeah.
the workload and the price difference is significant.
Yeah.
And of course what I did as well, what other people can do, I literally actually created a fake Facebook profile and contacted the local competition just as well
Ah,
to see what are the local rates,
yeah.
and then to see as well, like, because of course I'm a foreigner, I have different costs, and I have more experience and better gear most of the time. And
Yeah.
there, but as well, I'm in a different market where there's the average price is lower than what I would
Yeah.
charge.
I
So,
can imagine that calibrating on price here in Vietnam is hard enough as it is already because like the price is so different from what you get used to pay like in the Western markets.
yep,
Also, the price package would be majorly different from a smaller coffee shop or coffee owner compared to something like a bigger resort that
of
you have on
course.
the beach sides here. So like what is the budget range for a budget option? Like what price point does it start?
It usually starts.
Like one simple 360 photo for a smaller coffee shop, so they have that option. What's kind of in the price indication that they have to be aware of to have that option on Google Street View?
Well, it usually starts with like $30 $40.
Okay.
That depends a bit, obviously, because is it
Yeah.
just around the neighborhood? I can quickly go there, like take a photo in like 15 10 15 minutes and come back, versus like drive somewhere for an hour. So they
Well, and another point, like the coffee shop has to style its environment, right? Because like
yeah,
sometimes I took photos of hotels, and then the biggest part is like styling the place, clean it up,
yeah,
like making it look perfect, instead of that you have to dive back into Photoshop. So
yeah,
I can imagine that people have to do that themselves already. It saves a lot of work.
yeah. Plus that, obviously, I had it last week, I think, yeah, where I actually went to another premises and was supposed to take photos there, and they said, "Ah, come at that time. Usually, there's no customers there," and it just happened to be that there was like 10 customers around. And
Yeah,
then, because you don't want to have people inside, because you need to blur the faces for privacy reasons on Google, so then I basically had driven 20 minutes one way for nothing. Then basically just had a coffee there and drove back again.
yeah,
So, because if there's small imperfections or stuff, you can Photoshop stuff on the wall and so on. But to Photoshop like 10 people sitting around on different tables, no.
yeah.
So it's
No,
rather
and it looks unattractive. I can imagine having people
exactly,
sit there like it's not as flattering as it could be.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So
Definitely clear. I have some three questions left, and then before we have to end this podcast. Something I want to ask every guest: like, are you using AI in your work yet as a photographer?
yes, so I obviously started to use Photoshop AI
Yeah.
for my 360 work as well. It does, I would say, between 50 to 80% of the tasks I ask
Yeah.
to do it. For example, for I just finished a tour for one of the biggest hotel brands there are, and they had one elevator was down, so there was like yellow like scaffolding around it.
Yeah.
Outside the premise was a ladder because they were putting up some Christmas lights,
Yeah.
just to name some of the things. Or even there was some like odd shadows because the bed was a bit wavy and so on. And those things normally I would have done manually, which would have taken me a lot of time. And now to
Yeah.
use AI, I mean, sometimes you get absurd results where it said fix the bed and it put like metal wrenches on the bed. And I was just,
It's not a
how?
hospital bed, right? Come
Yeah,
on.
exactly. But
Yeah.
yeah, it helps tremendously. And I've started as well to use AI to help me with my own social media, just like to word some of my social media posts better. And I know I can incorporate it a lot more to give me like promotion campaigns and so on, but that I haven't like utilized yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What would you consider like a must-have AI tool for photographers? Is that Photoshop AI? Is
Photoshop
it?
AI,
Yeah.
hands down. Yeah, it's.
I don't have it
Or
yet.
I actually had it 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago. I did a portrait shot for family,
Yeah.
and it was at the beach. It was windy, and their 3-year-old girl had a nice dress on, but then of course the wind was blowing up, and you could see her underwear,
Yeah.
which like and otherwise, and the hair was all over the place. And then I used AI to extend the dress, and it still made it nicely that it still was wavy and everything. I then had
Yeah.
to touch up where it meets a bit, and
Yeah.
then that I got a lot of the hair nicely done as well.
Okay.
So, which otherwise would have taken me an hour or two with manual patching up, that was done in like 15 minutes.
Yeah. And the thing when you do it manually, it often gets messy
Yeah,
as well.
that's what I mean. It
And
would
it's
take me like
in the
2 hours
detail.
or something of like clone patching, moving around, and
Yeah.
it would still not really be what I want to. So their AI actually game changer.
That's crazy. Okay, awesome. And um, my what's your favorite piece of software? Because photography or as a photographer, it's like cooking a meal. You can do it in so many different ways. What's your favorite piece of software that you use to retouch photos or
It's a mix between Photoshop and Lightroom, to be honest. I used to
yeah,
do a lot more Photoshop. These days, I dive more into Lightroom because you can have as well like localized areas where you change and so on, and especially for interior photos and so on, you don't need that much Photoshop anymore. And if I need to, I can still on Lightroom right click, open in Photoshop, and then revert back if I have some specialized things which I need to touch up. So I would actually, yeah, the Adobe Photoshop Lightroom subscription, I think it's like $10 or $9.99. And that comes with both softwares together, Photoshop and Lightroom, and that's
yeah.
99% of stuff what I do.
And together with Photoshop AI now, like that's a no-brainer to have as a photographer as well, right?
Absolutely,
Uh,
yeah.
and then as a last question, and something that I really want to dive into this podcast more regularly is like, if you have any tips for starting photographers on how to build a brand, how to start earning money with photography, then what helped you the most to
Um,
start earning?
be humble and be honest to it,
Yeah,
actually, because that's what I've noticed. If you're honest to people and you say, hey, can I do some work? Like, or like, I would love to take some photos. I right now don't have the portfolio, but like, can I do something here? And I give it to you either for free or at a cheaper price. Then people usually go out of your way to help you. And as well, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like,
mm,
I have never took a photo course or any like education in photography. I basically got all my knowledge from YouTube and back in the days from Facebook groups. Or I still, especially on detailed 360 questions, go into Facebook groups because there's so many groups of industry professionals or like enthusiasts, and if you just write there, hey guys, either I have this and this problem, could you help? Or if you go to somebody like online, say, hey, I really love your work. That
Yeah.
photo looks amazing. Like, how did you do that? More often than not, you actually get that a long response with detailed instructions of like, use this Photoshop action, do that and like get that and that light source, whatever. And just think like, wow, because you gave somebody a compliment saying, hey, I really like your work. And
Yeah.
then more often than not, people say, oh, thank you so much for the compliment. Let me tell you. So it's, yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help and advice and just be honest and hungry. Like we just, and as I said, just
Yeah.
you can buy a secondhand camera, buy a 50 millimeter lens, boom. You can start
You
with, and there's free Photoshop alternatives as well. I forgot the name. Um,
what is it, Kim? No.
GIMP. Yeah, I think it's
Jim,
GIMP.
Jim.
Yeah,
I
whatever.
know what you. I know
Whatever
what
it's
you
called.
mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Gimp.
And that does almost everything for free there, and then you can start doing portraits, and then or you can even do interior with a 50 mil.
Yeah,
And then just work your way up, and then just like practice, practice, practice. I mean, I've taken hundreds of thousands of photos. Um, and like only a fraction actually have seen the light of day, but there was just like trial and error.
yeah.
So
They say the first 10,000 photos you take are just shit, and of course that's hard. That's hard, but it's the truth.
yeah,
When you look at your photos, probably that you've taken the first year, the first 2 years, you see a lot of improvement points. But the fact is, like, just go out there, go and do the work, and be humble, be honest. You say approach
yeah,
people, be hungry and be interested, genuinely interested in people,
yeah,
and don't be afraid to ask for help and offer them something. I think
exactly, yeah,
that's your biggest giveaway, because I really like that you actively go out to restaurant owners and you just show them in their face, like, look, this is what your restaurant could look like. You're missing out. This is what I can do for you, or
yeah,
not. That's up to you. And approach them from a helping position.
yeah,
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so starting photographers, like that's a great place to start. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Michael, thank you so much for being one of the first guests on this podcast.
Thank you for having
Um,
me.
People can reach out to you. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Um, one platform definitely my Instagram. That's an easy way to approach me. Like at M Hornbogen. I'm sure you can put that into
Yeah, absolutely. We're
the
gonna drop that into the
yeah.
description and in the tag if
And
we post this on social media.
yeah, my homepage I'm
Definitely.
working on right now to get that relaunched. That would then be
Yeah.
the second step. That hopefully should be launched in like a week or so.
Okay.
Then
But
that will be up as well.
and a good way as well would be to just book a free consult with you, right?
Yeah,
A free
absolutely.
audit call that with your phone number, your WhatsApp, or maybe your Messenger, that people can go over with you on their street view, on their cafe, and you can tell them what you like, what you don't like, and
Yeah,
probably what you can mean for them.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.